Good morning. Welcome back to Daybreak. This is 13th of August 2024. And of course, this morning we want to pay some special focus on the state of the counties. But first, to introduce the panelists here in studio, FCPA Ahmed Abdullahi, Governor of Wajir County, but also the Vice Chair at the Council of Governors. Good morning, Governor.
Good morning, sir.
And good to see you again.
Thank you.
Kidinji Kiragu is the chairperson of the Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee. Good morning, Chairman.
Good morning, Sam.
Good to see you. And Senator Hilary Sigei, or should I say Wakili Hilary Sigei, Senator of Bomet County and chairperson of Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights Committee at the Senate. Good morning.
Good morning, Sam. And Wakili is equally my official name, so
yes.
There's no harm to call me by that name.
Yes. I haven't seen you in a long time. I think a lot has happened.
Yes, but I was here last week. I was here with Trevor last week on Thursday on the State of the Nation.
I haven't seen you in a long time.
So I definitely also is happy to be again back here. The last time I think I was on this bench was should be 2-3 months ago.
Yeah. And
things have happened. A lot has happened.
Yes, indeed.
I'm happy to equally also share the platform today so that we can get to know the status of our nation as is in terms of the government institutions that we oversight on our part as senators, as well as now the developments that we're looking forward to have for our people at the county levels.
Sure thing.
Yeah.
In the papers this morning, so the Standard, the top story is about Ruto trains gun at PSS in Shafo, and asking the question, who stays after the radical surgery on the cabinet that saw 13 members dropped. The axe is about to land on principal secretaries, with those in the know saying at least 15 will be dropped to pave way for a broad-based executive. Senator, have you heard of such a thing?
I would outrightly answer no, because when we saw yesterday the president together with his entire team of the newly appointed cabinet secretaries as well as the principal secretaries who were in office, they had a meeting in State House, I think a breakfast session yesterday. And I haven't heard that one of the agenda items was a consideration of who will stay and who will go where and how and when. In fact, what you're getting is that the conversation was, a bonding session for the newly appointed cabinet secretaries, and also now the presidential communication on the status of not now the Kenya Kwanza government, but I would call the broad-based government that, of course, is incorporating almost everybody across the country. And so I do not think that issue is yet to be in the cards as of now, because we are looking at settling down from where we've come from 2 months ago, from the 25th of June. And that is what is in everyone's mind, including, I believe, the president. And as such, then, I don't think it is one of the things on the table.
All right.
Yes.
Oh, all right. But I first want us to begin by talking about the situation in the counties. And Governor, maybe starting with you. First of all, so in the Supplementary Appropriations Bill, or the Act now that was signed into, I think it should be last week or the week before, the proposal had been to reallocate resources from the previous financial year. I think it was 30.8 billion shillings carried over to the new financial year. But also in it, there was a reduction by some 20 billion shillings. Maybe you can start by giving us an update of how the counties are faring, especially with the exchequer releases.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sam. As you've correctly said, we didn't get a full disbursement of what was due to the counties in the previous financial year. There was a carry forward of 30 billion thereabout, which is the allocation for the month of June for all counties. Constitutionally, there's no mechanism to roll over county monies. Actually, on the midnight of 30th of June of every financial year, the last shilling due to a county ought to be released to the county CRF accounts. That didn't happen because of challenges of money in national government. So that money has now been released by Treasury. but cannot be disbursed by the controller because the counties have to do a supplementary budget to access it. There has to be a process of revoting in the new financial year. So a number of counties are grappling with passing their 24-25 budgets, but also doing a supplementation of these carry forward monies. So counties to that extent dry because the last money actually received is May money, and now we are in what?
In August.
In August. So that challenge is there.
And when did the May disbursement come?
I think sometime in June, yeah, towards the end of June, yeah.
So July, August, no money has come in, but
yes.
Resource-wise, you're talking about, because it will be 15th in 2 days' time.
Yeah.
So you're talking about June, July, August, 3 months.
Yes, yes. So the counties that have passed an approved budget for 2024-25,
yep,
albeit an interim budget because of everything that's going on,
yep,
and which have arrangements with banks, have been able to borrow to pay salaries. But yes, there are counties that have not been able to pay salaries as of today, especially those that don't have arrangements with banks. Why? Because the last money they received was in June relating to May release, so they've not gotten money for June, they've not gotten money for July, and now August has started, yes.
Yeah. And when you borrow from banks, does that get clearance from the control of budget, or it comes directly to you?
I think it's mostly they pay the salaries directly to the staff accounts,
okay,
ideally.
Okay.
And different people have different arrangements, yeah.
Interesting. And Kidinji, we have had this struggle for so long, and he raises that point which is quite crucial, because even when Parliament was revoting or reallocating the resources, sorry about that, when Parliament was revoting those resources, there were questions being answered that that is actually legal. So how do we iron out this issue? Because it is possible that even in this financial year, some resources will be late into the new year.
Some I would say, I think the ones who designed the constitution were very clear that whatever either of the two levels of government is doing which affects the other, and generally most of those things affect each other, there should always be consultation and coordination. I think the unfortunate thing here is a situation again where the law is there, and if the law is not working, then instead of breaching the law, at least on a unilateral basis, you should involve the other party. So if indeed the national government has got serious cash flow problems, then it should engage the governors and they agree how do we address these issues. I think for me the most unfortunate thing is that absence of consultations. And I think I would say, you know, there are pockets within leadership who have not bothered sufficiently to understand the constitutional framework that we have for devolution. And if they did, then they would do that consultation. The point is that when the counties have problems and are not delivering, okay, then the country is not, the government is not delivering at both levels.
Right. Because
most of the important things which the functions which counties perform actually are the basics that the wananchi would feel from the government as a whole. Therefore, you know, anything which is done which undermines the performance of the county governments actually undermines the credibility of both levels of government.
Right.
And I think that is probably not sometimes appreciated by, you know, committees and so on, or even institutions like the National Treasury. Sometimes I don't know whether they don't understand it and so on. So it would have been good that we came to this place where His Excellency here was saying we sat down with the national government, with the National Treasury, with His Excellency the President, He made us understand the problems. The National Treasury made us understand the problems. And we agreed for the country, this is what needs to happen. And we realized that there were certain counties which have problems, which will not be able to pay salaries and so on. Because, of course, when a government fails to pay salaries to employees, it's a very serious issue. So, you know, and that on that basis, we agreed this is what we need to do to get our country to move forward in the circumstances that we are in.
And Governor, before I get to the Senator, ordinarily what happens when resources are delayed before and released way after the financial year? Is it the same thing of having to do supplementary budgets?
There's probably, with respect to that one, is just the delay in completing the acts that govern the release of money. You know, there has to be the Division of Revenue Act, and then there's got to be the National Government Budget and Appropriations Act, which incorporates the portion that is sent to the counties, and then Senate then, and the Division of Revenue, of course, has to be agreed between both houses of Parliament, and then Senate has to, again, pass the County Allocation of Revenue Act. So there's generally inherent delays in finalizing these acts. But this year, we're also in uncharted waters, in the sense that a Division of Revenue Act was already passed, and then because national government could not see through it is a finance bill, the Impugned Finance Act, which was quote-unquote rejected, they then went ahead and amended the National Government Appropriations Bill without reference to counties and to the Senate, which then requires, in their view, an amendment of the Division of Revenue Act, which, according to us, is not envisaged in law. There is no mechanism to do that. There is no mechanism to go back to the Division of Revenue Act. So they unilaterally went ahead and reduced allocation to counties by 20 billion shillings, which matter we're waiting to see how the Senate handles, which could end up in court again, because really under all the articles of the Constitution and under the PFM Act and the Division of Revenue Act, there is no mechanism to go back on division of revenue. So we are also dealing with this peculiar situation this year.
So, Senator, what happens here? And there are those two twin issues. First, the delayed disbursement for the month of June, and secondly, the budget cuts through the National Treasury and the National Assembly. What happens here as you protect counties?
It's true that Governor here has made a very great reference to the peculiar situation that we are in. And when we look at that particular situation, maybe first of all, to just put into context.
Senator, I'm told you need to fix your microphone. I think we'll get to you shortly.
Okay.
As you wait for that, so Chairman, ideally, what should happen in such a situation that there's an amendment without amending the Division of Revenue Act in terms of the resources assigned, allocated to the counties?
I think this is a case where, again, I don't know. The people who are doing this are the ones who are they are the registrators. So we expect that they understand the law very well. So they have to go unwide. They have to do some reversals of what they are doing, because for sure it is true that you cannot do things the way they have done them at the moment. It may have been done for to meet certain exigencies. Although from where I stand, I think, to the extent that we already had an appropriations bill, there was time to do this thing systematically, where you handle what is going to happen with with the sharing of the revenue, and you change the act for sharing of the revenue, and then on the basis of that you go back now and you do an amendment to the appropriations bill, because there was already an appropriations bill in place to allow any disbursements which were needed. So you know, so sometimes you see like, was it intended to annoy the governors or something like that?
Right, but is it even possible to amend it? Because remember, it was a negotiated document, all the way from a proposal from Commission on Revenue Allocation, COG had spoken about it, then IBEC had made a decision. There was actually a mediation between the two houses of parliament. How do you go about that? Well,
I mean, as I say, nothing is impossible if two parties seriously consult. Because again, you must accept that, you know, the governors are reasonable leaders of the country. Therefore, they are people who can understand. You know, sometimes you can do something, even in the family level, you know, if it is a child who cannot understand, you do your decisions. But once you are dealing with grown-ups and people who are reasonable, you engage them in the process. Let us at least let the disagreement come out in the open, that we have had consultations and been unable to agree. But it is bad, and it looks in bad taste if you make decisions without consulting the other party.
All right. Senator, your technical, I believe your mic is
I hope then the mic is okay. You can go ahead. I wanted to start by commenting some on the aspect of delayed disbursements, because now we're dealing with resources that had already been allocated for the financial year 2023-2024. And ordinarily, under the law, to be specific, Section 17 of the Public Finance Management Act requires that the National Treasury and IBEC sits back together to work on a schedule of cash disbursement to the counties. And this schedule is what is supposed to guide on how much it goes to the counties and when. That means ordinarily then we are supposed to be getting by the 15th of every month. That is, let's say, from 15th of July 2023 to 15th of June 2024. There would be a schedule for monthly disbursements to all the counties. Then there, of course, is need for adherence to that particular schedule for purposes of continuous implementation of the programs of county governments at their level. But of course, unfortunately, there now has been a challenge, especially with regards to the legal timelines, which I now would say the governor had made reference to, because there is normally a legal challenge in terms of timelines for purposes of approval of these disbursements, as well as the approval of the County Allocation of Revenue Act. That way, it has brought into the discrepancy in terms of compliance of timelines. And of course, now coupled with the situation as a country that we are in, that you have a law in place, you have a schedule in place, but has not been fully adhered to, meaning you do not get funds disbursed in time, notwithstanding the fact that the law is in place. And that is what has brought us to where we are at the moment. Remember, we are also entirely relying on collections by the national government in terms of tax and ultimately now for disbursements to the county government. That is one of the challenges that has brought into delays disbursements. And when you look at normally the arrangements that county governments would have, we have been made to understand that you as a county government is ordinarily expected, because of these non-delays in disbursements now, have arrangements. But of course, not all of them will be able to have arrangements with their respective banks and institutions relevant to support them, to make sure that they are facilitated to pay their salaries, to pay their bills, and to ensure that there is continuity, seamless, even when there are delays.
Just to cut it short, is it always free, Governor, to get this short-term borrowing from the banks?
As I said, it depends on how you negotiated. For payments of salaries, they might, most banks will charge some small administrative person charge, which the county governments will be willing to bear, as opposed to keeping their staff without salaries for months.
Okay.
So it might not be the conventional loan rates.
Okay.
Because I think the banks also in the counties want that activity. And the county payroll usually is one such huge activity in every county. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, Senator, we were now to get to the question of the amendment to
the situation
that
we are
without
in. Now, that's quite an interesting situation that we are in. Remember, the budget cycle began. The National Assembly ran through, it had its budget approvals and the relevant laws were passed. It came into the Senate and we actually had passed equitable share of revenue bill. Shortly before now we had the issues that led to the, would I call it rejection or withdrawal, the withdrawal of the finance bill.
Right.
And immediately thereafter, of course, the conversation went to the extent of now dealing with the austerity measures that the president declared, and therefore we have got to work within certain situations, because if we have now the finance bill having been rejected for the current year, what do we do? Do we revert back to the previous one? And remember that one also, now the courts have declared that it was unconstitutional. So when we say we are dealing with uncharted territories, it is actually the position as is. As to whether or not now we can amend, you see, we definitely cannot say there is no law providing for that, because at the end of the day, we must deal with the situation as is. If we are dealing with, because we had passed up to 400 billion allocations, equitable share to the counties, which was an increase from last year's 385.
Right.
And here we are unable to even implement that because there is no law in place. The courts have declared this, in the first place, one unconstitutional, the other one has been withdrawn or rejected, and therefore we do not have a finance bill and a finance act for that matter. So what do we do? Do we then revert back to the one that was there, or at the same time, as we are now dealing with, because it's actually one of the bills which are pending before the Senate, in terms of we had passed to 400. We do not have that one. What do we do? Because we don't have the bill that led to the support of this one. So we definitely have got to deal with it. We have got to amend it. And I know, as the governor was saying, there is a possibility then that some people will go to court.
So you're saying there's an amendment bill at the Senate already?
No. I'm saying that what we have as of now is the report from the Finance Committee of the Senate as regards the process leading to where we are supposed to go. Because what will they do? What will we do? Counties are expecting to have resources. And we cannot just sit back and say the finance bill was... So
are you saying there's a possibility of amending the Division of Revenue Act 2024?
Because we had passed 400 sub. Yeah. That is not there.
And I hear there's a clause that says that despite revenue shortfall, that shall be borne by the national executive or the national government.
That is fine. Look at it this way.
Yeah.
You have no law in place. You do not have the 2023-2024 Act, because it has now been Finance Act.
Yes.
It has now been declared unconstitutional, right? You do not have 2024-2025 because it has been withdrawn and therefore not in place.
And I'm getting
Number
that.
two.
I'm getting that. I'm just wondering,
Yes.
so the Appropriations Act has been amended.
Yes.
Why isn't there a proposed amendment to the Division of Revenue Act and the County Allocation of Revenue Act?
Now, it is not that we cannot amend. And actually, that is why I was saying we can't sit back and say we cannot amend the Appropriation of Revenue Act merely because of the fact that we will be dealing with a document that doesn't exist. Because we will have to deal with it. So there is a possibility that will come, so that we can now avail resources in whichever way to the counties.
How should
I know the government, the county governments will definitely also raise concerns and say, look, we can't because we have no law in place. That is exactly what the governor said. And we will definitely have people going to court.
Hear him say it.
Sam,
Yeah.
first of all, there are two aspects of this. There's the legal question,
Yeah.
and then there is the financial implication on the counties. Yes, legally, the law, the Constitution and the PFM Act and all laws relating to division of revenue and transfer of, equitable share to counties did not envisage an amendment of the DORA. So there's no mechanism to amend the division of revenue. And if you look at the section 39.3 of the PFM Act, it clearly stipulates that national government can only amend its own appropriation and Budget Act, and even that while respecting the Division of Revenue Act, right? So once DORA is passed, you can start, reducing the equitable share to counties, oblivious to the fact that there's a Division of Revenue Act. So there's no mechanism to do that. Two, the amount of money in question. Yes, we have money problems, but the amount of money in question is 15 billion shilling. It's 15 billion shilling because it's actually 20 billion. Let me say 20 billion.
Yeah.
First of all, we feel that there's a bit of bad faith in this, in the sense that even before the court threw out the the Finance Act 2023,
right?
National government had already decided to reduce the allocation to counties by 20 billion, which takes us to lower than what we got last year at 385. The Finance Act is an amendment act in the sense that it replaces the one that was there the previous year. So at that point, before declaring the 2023 one unconstitutional, there was no logical and rational reason to take us back to lower than what we had last year.
Right.
Because what the impugned Finance Act caused is inability to collect new taxes, but it never at that point affected the collecting of the taxes that national government was collecting last year. And there's the question of both rates and new taxes, but there's also the question of quantum and volume of transactions. So unless national government can convince us that there's a reduction in the volume of transactions on the taxes they're going to collect, there's really no reason of taking us back to lower than what we had last year. So I think 20 billion shilling is something that we believe the national government can cope up with, even in spite of the challenges they have. It's probably one big project that they would have done at the national government, but you can see how it's affecting the lives of Kenyans in terms of delivery of basic services in 47 counties across the country. We believe that they can bear with that 20 billion and that they should leave us at the negotiated position of 400, which was in itself way below what we were asking for.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation and also listen to the Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury and what he thinks about the future of some of the provisions in the withdrawn finance bill 2024. Stay tuned.